Hello and welcome everyone to another edition of Coach's Corner, our weekly coaches show, where we sit down with the architect of Albany football, Bob Ford. And Coach, let's get right into it. A high drama win Saturday night at Colgate, and really which culminated in that fourth quarter when they had stormed back. It was first and goal from about the 3. Talk about the defensive stand.
Well, we had been struggling defense, both against the run and the pass, but there were two series that just were so important to us. One was the time when they scored and went for two. If they had have gotten it, it would have been a one-score game. And then the second thing you were referring to was the first and goal on the 3. It's pretty hard to stop them at that point, and it was kind of interesting. They didn't get it on first down. They didn't get it on second down. They didn't get it on third down. And then you question, what would you have done if you were in Colgate situation? Would you have kicked the field goal to get it into a tie situation and go for the tie in overtime, or would you go for the score? They elected to go for the TD, and we stuffed them, and then that's tough enough. That was phenomenal, but you're still on your 1 yard line at that point. And we came out of there, I can't remember whether it was on the first down or the second down, with a great run by Omar Osborne. Got it out somewhere close to midfield, and then Presley Buford took it the rest of the way. And in 2 runs, I think we got about 95 yards, I think. So great win for us.
Well, I want to ask you about Omar Osborne, your running back, who the week before seemed to be almost like a shell of himself. And you had a quote. You say we ran for under 100 yards. We usually run for 100 on the way to the locker room to the field. And then this week he comes 7 days later and is the third highest total in program history, 252 yards. He's a CAA Offensive Player of the Week.
Well, I said to the staff, I couldn't think of a kid who I'd like to see win the first CAA award better than Omar. He's so humble. I call him Mr. Silky. He just sort of slips and slides, but he's a real good football player, and I'm awfully happy he got on track, and I hope we're going to be able to continue that down through the next 10 ball games.
Well, I want you to talk about Presley Buford a little bit. The week before it was, all Osborne, and as far as carries, and he's mixed it up a little bit, and he really showed out.
Presley's relatively short in stature, he's about 5'5", and I think a lot of coaching staffs would pass over someone of that size, because not only do you have to run the ball, you've got to block linebackers and defensive ends if they're in a blitzing situation. Presley's a very tough kid. He's got great balance. He's got a little bit of a burst of speed to him, and he's a good football player. And I think he stepped out on the field Saturday, and he can't handle 30 or 40 carries a ball game, but I think he does give us a great change of pace in there, and he gets behind a pretty good size offensive line, and he's tough to find sometimes as he's moving back there.
Coach, how different is it for you from a coach's perspective going into your home opener and, of course, the CAA opener against Rhode Island, the opening of Bob Ford Field, just with the momentum of being 1-1 as opposed to 0-2?
Well, I said to the staff this morning, there will be no distractions in Kingston, Rhode Island this week, but there'll be all sorts of distractions in Albany, New York for our staff, for our squad. We're going into a brand new stadium that is state of the art and a much needed facility, and one of the last pieces of the puzzle that we need to be successful. But I think those things can cause some distractions, and we're going to have to work hard to see that the hoopla going into this doesn't become the main attraction. I think the attraction is playing our first CAA game and focusing up on them. They are 0-2. They lost to a pretty good Fordham team that had beaten Villanova. They lost to Stony Brook in Stony Brook's opener. But they're a veteran football team, a lot of seniors, a lot of juniors and they're too deep. And Joe Traynor does a pretty good job with them, and they will come to play. They have 63 full scholarships, so we're going to have to play very well.
Coach, last question. Do you see anything in that matchup that you may be able to exploit? What would be a strength going into the weekend?
Well, I think they're struggling a little bit on offense, which may be a good thing for our defense at this point. I think before the season ends, we're going to be a pretty solid defensive unit, but we certainly have gotten off to a rough start, both against the run and the pass. So And then I do think also that we may be a little bit better in the special teams than they may. So I think we're going to have to get our field position with our special teams. We're going to have to continue to exploit the run on offense and throw the ball pretty well. And then we're going to have to get a little bit more consistent on defense.
Coach, thank you.
You're welcome, Zach.
All right, that'll do it for this week's edition of Coach's Corner. As always, we encourage you to check us out next week as we react to the CAA opener against Rhode Island and look ahead to Central Connecticut. For Coach Ford, I'm Zach Bye. We'll see you next time.